Hello again. This time I'm giving this little cupboard a steampunk makeover. First things first, these ugly legs have to go. As I'm going to be decoupaging the front door, I'm adding some MDF panels over the top of the vertical joints. It'll make decoupaging the front so much easier. So I've used some wood glue and now I'm tacking them down with small nails, and the gaps I'm going to fill with this builder's bog. Once it's dry, it's easy to sand for a nice flat surface. Now I'm attaching the new legs. This piece is going to have a lot of texture on it, so I'm not too fussed about having a perfectly flat surface, but I am using structure paste to try and fill some of the ridges in the pine. And then I'm going over with the structure paste and just creating a bit of a textured surface, very randomly. And then for a little bit more texture, I'm using the structure paste and a steampunk stencil to create a raised stencil. And I will do this all down both sides and over the top. It's not necessary to prime your piece when you're doing this style of painting, but I do like to have a light colour under where the decoupage is going, so I've just decided for a blank canvas to paint in a light grey all over the piece. Now she's all ready for the Mint by Michelle decoupage paper Shaun Sheep. After I decide the right position for the paper, I'm using polyurethane top coat to paste. And note that I always only paste a couple of inches at a time. This is my little must-have tool. It's called a felt applicator or a vinyl squeegee, and with the combination of the plastic bag that the paper came out of, it is excellent for pushing out the creases and any air bubbles you might get. The door has a couple of hinges on the outside, so I've just stopped pasting to trim the paper around the hinges because I want them to be seen in the final piece. I don't want to decoupage over the top of them. This is the fun part, decoupaging around a corner, and you'll notice the paper's really tight, but if you mist it with water, the fibres relax and it makes it easier to stretch around the corner. I'm misting a lot of water, so the paper can become quite delicate, so I'm gently using my hand and the plastic to push into all the texture that's on that side. Don't worry if you get any little tears, because we can always come back and fix it with paint. Decoupaging over texture like this does take a little bit longer. You need to be a little bit more patient, because unlike a flat surface, I can't use the squeegee, so I'm gently pushing into the design to make sure I don't get any trapped bubbles, and at this time I can push out any creases that are there. So once it's all on and 100% dry, I like to use a spray varnish to seal before I do any painting. I'm really pleased how it looks over the textured raised stenciling that we did, and I didn't get any tears. And as if I hadn't used enough structure paste, I decided to put a raised stencil down the bottom, which looks a bit like an old brick wall. To create a real steampunk theme look, I've purchased all these little bits and pieces, and I've made some moulds from a flexible resin and a hard resin. Then I need to decide where they're all going to go. The cogs and wheels that I'm going to put on the front over the top of the decoupage paper, I need to first paint with black paint. I'm using Mint by Michelle's Time and Space. Then I'm going to use some bright gold gilding wax. And now I'm sticking them all on the front with some super glue. Now I can start on the sides. Before I do any of the paint blending, I'm going to just add a base colour of Time and Space Black. I'm putting all the cogs and wheels on down the bottom now. I should have done this beforehand and then painted it all black, but that's okay. I'm sticking them all on now, and then I'll go back and paint these bits black. So here's what she looks like so far. Notice that the paper colour has actually got some green tones in it. So I've mixed up some Time and Space and Roaring 20s, and it matches the paper up the top perfectly. Oh, and I think there was a bit of Riverbank green in there as well. So when I'm blending the paper in, I don't stop the paint at the edge of the paper. I put the paint all the way onto the paper and I blend in so you don't know where the painting stops and starts. So now I'm introducing Riverbank Green. I'm just trying to mimic the colours that are in the paper, and it's just a matter of having a play with the colours. I never really have a set in stone plan. I often have an idea of the colours scheme that I'm going to use, but it's really just a matter of having a play. I've been using a combination of a stippling brush and a sponge to smudge the colours together. Now I'm coming in with some Roaring 20s and just adding smidges here and there, and using the sponge to just blend it in. I wanted to lighten this area up just a little bit, so I'm adding some retro wallpaper. Notice how I'm just stippling on a bit of colour and then using the sponge to blend it in. I'm using here now some Annie-Sloan Honfleur, as it's the only brown I've got. I know I could probably make brown out of some mint colours, but it was just easy to grab my tin of Honfleur, and I'm just blending that in for some added dimension. One reason I like to spray my paper with the varnish is because when I'm doing the blending, and often the blending like this is very close to the design, it means I can wipe off the paint where I don't want it to be, so I don't cover the design. And here I was adding a little bit of black because I wanted a shadow around the image that's on the paper, and then I'm coming in with a bit of Fat Fanta, which is orange, to add a bit more rust effect into the paint colour. So now I'm continuing to follow the colours that are in the paper, and I'm using stoneware clay to add a bit of base down here. I still really haven't decided what I'm doing down the very bottom yet. Now I'm adding just a little bit of time and space around the sheep. I'm just smudging it in with my fingers to make it look like a bit of a shadow around the sheep. It was looking a bit flat down there, so I'm just adding a bit of colour with the Roaring 20s and some Fat Fanta. I'm giving it a bit of a mist so I can loosen the paint and just take off some excess, and this leaves the paint trapped in that gorgeous texture that I've got there. I decided it needed a little bit more shadowing down the bottom, so I'm just dry brushing some time and space over the textured surface. And I'll show you this close up later. It looks really, really good. Now with some Mint by Michelle woolen jumper, I'm just fixing up his ear that I painted over, and I'm adding some highlights down the side of him. Now I'm adding some gold gilding wax to the moulds that I added down the bottom. So like the front, I'm adding some decoration over the top of the paper. So I have pre-painted them and pre-gilding waxed them. So I'm just now gluing them on with some super glue. To highlight all that texture that I did down the bottom, I'm dry brushing some gold paint. And here she is. Doesn't she look fabulous? I am so pleased with the result. It's actually better than I even imagined she would be. I haven't demonstrated the painting on this side, but it is pretty much the same technique as I've already shown you. I hope you've really enjoyed this steampunk makeover. She was so fun to do, and I hope it's maybe inspired you to have a go. If you'd like to see more of my work, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and I'd really love you to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.